Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Eddie. I had a thought of what I would be doing for this episode like a couple days ago, but then at the same time, why would I do that right now if it's not coming to mind? So basically, I'm just going to kind of state what is on my mind at the moment. So I feel an incredible cascade or a wave of refinement within me. There is this sensation of being able to do the practice of restraint on a much higher level. And part of doing the practice of restraint entails an understanding of what is the right motivation. If you have the right motivation, restraint can be a joyous thing to do. But what needs to occur is to experience the bliss that comes with the right motivation. And understand that this bliss outlasts the bliss of relief when you try to immediately satisfy impulses. And it's a delicate balance, and it's important to understand the complexity of a precious human rebirth and understand the complexity of this world at this time. This world, in many ways, is described as the time of the degenerate era, in which there is not as much prevalence of the signs and marks of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that are easily apprehendable. Me personally, though, I'm really happy to be here at this time. I don't feel like the people I interact with are somehow condemned or anything like that. It's quite the opposite, actually. What's beautiful about being in this realm, though, is that the potential for you to achieve a higher rebirth, if you have a precious human life in this realm, your potential you have for a higher rebirth is really high, actually, because of the fact that when it comes to the degenerate era, there is also an understanding that the potential for you to accumulate the highest levels of negative karma actually are not as easy to do. And the highest levels of negative karma being, for example, you receive the very vital instructions and teachings on how to achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime. Which, there have been times in Earth's history, the times which I'm most familiar of are from Tibet, from being within Tibet in past lifetimes. But there are times there have been times when there was more of a manifestation of these practices to achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime. And this actually happened quite a bit. It's important to understand the nature of the manifestation of Buddhahood, as Buddha Shakyamuni did it, or Guru Rinpoche did it, or Milarepa did it, for example. It's important to understand that, but there still was that achievement quite commonly. However, though, the potential for entering into degeneration under such circumstances as well was actually really high, as opposed to this particular realm where you can sort of go forth with a slight bit more of a vigor and a pounding kind of action, like a baby at play, and not have as much of these worries of falling into the pits of these deepest sorts of hells. Now, this is, of course, you have to understand that the gross level, what you have to understand are the basic levels of ethics, of course. I mean, I'm not talking as if those sorts of things are not, the prerequisite, for these higher level practices that I'm discussing right now. You have to have, of course, a basis for that sort of thing, but there's the chances of you actually hearing me say this and not have a sort of basis in these ethics is very low because of the complete bombardment of content on the YouTube platform right now. And I have no subscribers to my channel, and no one watches my videos right now, but it's not that big of a deal, of course. And to be perfectly honest, it seems weird to me at this point in time for anyone to actually pay attention to these episodes at this moment. But What what that means though is that simply put, if there was some kind of like activation or request for me to sort of like put forth a certain type of content, then my ability to actually manifest that is actually quite high, for the most part, because I am like an Ent, you know, in Fanghorn Forest, in Lord of the Rings. Once I build up momentum, I eventually will get into a march that is very hard to stop. And what is exactly building up this momentum? This momentum comes not necessarily through like a very sudden and drastic feat of strength, or a very calculated and clever jab at someone's weak point. That is more of the tiger and crane styles of activities. What I'm referring to in this momentum is actually dragon style kung fu. And what's beautiful about dragon style kung fu is, well, what exactly is a dragon in this world, you know? If you were to watch a movie called Excalibur, there is the concept of the dragon is very beautiful in that film. It is a being that encompasses all aspects of appearance, essentially, yet also does have a form, but its form is so grand that if you were to gaze upon it, it would destroy you. And what that is essentially kind of telling me is that dragon style kung fu is simply working on a deeper level of working at a deeper level in association with the understanding of reality. You are planning things out, setting things up before the actual sort of like gross level of awareness of the necessity to set these things up is actually happening. And how exactly do you do this? Well, that's a good question. It's not as, I mean, like, I wouldn't say, what needs to occur is the training of your awareness. And you must first, like, take in your breath. You know, like, of course that's very important. You take in your breath, and you develop an awareness of your surroundings, and you notice over time, as you grow in experiences, deeper levels of awareness of your surroundings in association with your imputations within the mind. And then you start purifying these tendencies towards imputation, towards elaboration. And when you do that, what occurs is a more of a settling within appearance, a more of a perspective that occurs where you don't feel like this really gross, heavy, stinky, sweaty, inherently existent self. And when that really starts happening, you're starting to develop the youthful vase body, which is really amazing. You know, I'm starting to develop the youthful vase body a bit at the moment, and it's going alongside, of course, the understanding of, you know, what is the best sort of manifestation for my human brothers and sisters in particular as well, of course. Oh, but yeah, the human vase body is developing a little bit, so cheers to that. Blah! Stupid fucking fuck. You know, like, okay, so I'm wearing my Tarzan outfit right now, and actually how I have my outfit right now is really nice, and I think when I go to the costume parties in Halloween, I think this is how I'm going to wear it. I don't really feel like I'll go bare, just because of the potential for me to experience a fair amount of cold under those conditions, and you know, like what it would take for me to sort of manifest the heat necessary to be under those circumstances. And it's possible that I may. It depends how I'll feel, but I think wearing this particular attire is slightly more skillful. It looks good. The contrast with the black and all of this as well. But yeah, so dragon style kung fu. And it comes with a relaxed, I like the idea of a monkey riding on a dragon. You know, I think that's important because the playfulness has to be there as you rearrange in your life in skillful ways. Alright, so with that being said, there's no better way for me to end this episode than concluding it on the idea of a monkey riding the dragon. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Tea Time with Eddie, and peace in